to host it at Neil's office there, but Katie came along. I don't know. Yeah, Katie contacted me, and then I was having a tour of the college here, and then we talked about hosting SyncNorwich here, which is perfect venue. So hopefully, all being well, we'll be here. In the future. Yeah, we've been hosting this event, this particular flavor of our SyncNorwich event. Obviously, we've been going like 6-7 years, but we now focus on pitches. So it's all about bringing, grassroots discovery of local startups. Anyone's got an idea, and this is our 12th event. So what is 4 times 12? Is that like 40? 48. So we've had quite a few. When I first started doing this, I thought I wouldn't find. I'll probably be able to manage a couple of months, but every now, I keep an eye on things, and things just percolate up, and I add it to my little notes. Oh, I've got to follow up that person. I don't know who they are, but someone randomly will get a message from me. Do you want to come along to SyncNorwich and talk about it? So hopefully it just keeps on going every 2 months. I don't think we could do every month because there's not enough new ideas coming through, but every 2 months it should be possible. It's not possible. Well, it is still possible, but it makes it a bit more fun having pizza and beer. So we've got these sponsors, no supporters. They're not really sponsors. They're to help us. So Purple Tuesday they've literally been there from the beginning. I just send Seb an SMS. Can you get some beer, please? And then he gets the beer. As simple as that. Although today it didn't turn up, so I'm a bit of a sweaty mess because I've been running up and down to Tesco Metro getting all these beers. So I'll send him the receipt. And then we've got Lee's Pride and FX Home. Between the two of them, they're always getting the pizzas. We got Joshua here. He pays for it. Oh no, you don't pay for it anymore. No, we'll hear more about that in a minute. And then I'm going to put Access Creative there. Now they're sponsoring the venue, and then Superpass pay for the membership fees for Meetup, and then UEA. They don't actually sponsor these events, but I just love them, and we do sync the city together and everything like that. So anyone new, first time they come along to SyncNorwich, put your hand up. Just briefly introduce yourself, what your name is, where you come from, and what you do. Cool. Next. Oh, cool, Laura. Yeah. You be new there, or okay, good. So they sent you along, did they? Good. More. There was like loads of hands. Ah, cool. Snoop, the latest, greatest startup. Cool. 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 Oh, so 2 data scientists. Good. Good. Hello, Thomas. How you doing? Was there many more? Oh, yeah.
Hi, I'm Tony. I run a digital marketing agency called
Generate Leads Online. Did you message me on LinkedIn? Okay, I get those all the time. Yeah, so welcome everybody. Hopefully you enjoy it. It's an easy and casual event to attend, and everyone's super friendly. Anybody hiring and looking for talent, please shout out. Paul?
Yeah, so I'm working for Born Leisure. Some of you may know who own Haven and Butlins, and we're always looking for software engineers. So you fancy something a bit different? Come speak to us.
Where's remote?
It's all remote now. They're based in Hamilton, but everything's remote now.
Cool.
Yeah, look for a engineer from
At Snoop. Okay, cool. Joshua.
QA, software developers.
Check out that man.
Yeah, product managers. Oh, yeah.
I've got you a slide.
Yeah, we've got like 20 or 30 roles going at the moment. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of tech jobs.
Yeah.
Testing. Any UX design?
Yeah, UX as well, Windows and Mac and iOS. So yeah, we've got a bit of everything at the moment. But then we've also got like data science stuff for the team in Israel as well. So
Cool.
yeah,
Cool.
so.
Any more? Was it? Neil.
Looking for a CEO, anyone? There you go, Paul. No chance. Salary?
That's on, is it? Is that on? What's next? Oh yeah, I've started talking about jobs. So I haven't actually done this for a while, but feel free to sign up. I'll get onto it at some stage. It's a mailing list. We've got like 600 people on it, and we send out local jobs happening here and local news. I was good at the beginning of the year, but I try and get back onto it. It takes a few hours, and normally get up at like 5 a.m. to get it all knocked out every now and then. Yeah, but sign up. I will start publishing in the new year. So on to the pitches. So I've been promoting a lot. Yeah, so we've got Mr. Grenier here from Find My Tea, saving the planet one tea at a time. Greenr, Scoop, and Yakbit. Yeah, really looking forward to hearing from all these guys. So we're using this mic, are we? It's not actually. I mean, if it's just for the live stream, that's fine. Yeah. Hello. Okay. Oh, he's coming branded.
Yeah, right.
Sweet.
Can I buy a t-shirt?
Yes.
Would you like this one? No.
Yeah, so you take that and I'll bring up your...
While they're setting up, I haven't done this for ages. Hello, Sync Norwich. Good.
Hello,
How are
Sync.
you, Sync Norwich?
Woo!
Not for developers, better. Right, can you? I haven't done this for ages either. I have to get into last. Can you all give me a really, really big wave? Come on, big wave, keep going.
You send that to me, yeah? Sweet, cool. What is Find My Tea about?
What a great lead-in. Great. Yeah, so hello, Sync Norwich. I'm lots of new faces. Some know me, obviously, but I'm Paul Grenier. I'm a software engineer. I've been working here in Norwich for a very long time, or what feels like a very long time now. And this is my little side project. So it's not really a business. And everything I say tonight, I want you to bear in mind that I'm just doing this for fun. But you know what things are like when you just start them for fun. They sort of start to snowball, and then suddenly they become bigger things. I haven't got to the bigger thing yet, but I have got to the it's snowballing, and I haven't got any time to do anything else stage. So there's something I want you to do first. Could everybody get out your phone, please?
I'm not downloading now.
You don't have to, Alex, but everybody else does. And what I would like you to do is obviously download Find My Tea while I'm talking about how it started in a little while. And then I want you to do a search and see if you can find your favourite cafe. So you'll be able to search by your location here. So if your cafe happens to be local, you can find it straight away. Are you timing me, John?
Can someone time?
Or you can search by postcode, or you can search by a location. 20 minutes, Tom. And then I want to see who can find their favourite cafe in a moment. That's not my laptop. Right, okay, so I'm not going to read this out, but I started a new job in January 2020 with two of the guys who are at the back of the room. And we had an office down in Waterloo Station, and I was walking up and down Waterloo Station trying to find somewhere that I could get a T-Pig's cup of coffee. T-Pig's cup of tea. God, it's amazing how you just slip into that, isn't it? Yeah. But I couldn't find one, so I had this idea that I could get an app, or I could create an app, and then I could go and look for where I could find some T-Pigs. And I spoke to T-Pigs, and they were like, yeah, no, not really interested. So I thought, I'll open it up to all sorts of different types of tea. So I started writing an app. I needed to learn some new skills, so into a new role at Snoop, and I needed to learn some, or pick up C# again, and I always wanted to do a mobile app, and I fancied doing it in Flutter because Tom Alabaster, wherever he was, had been banging on about Flutter for a good year before that, so I thought I'd give it a try. So, and then Find My Tea was born. So, who's got the app? So, as I'll talk about in a minute, users is the thing I need, and if you did all manage to do it, it would probably be the biggest load it's been under since I created it. Okay, right. So this is the Find My Tea map.
That's pretty awesome.
Okay, so there are about 20,000 cafes in Find My Tea, and the ones you can see on here are the ones where we know what the brands are. Okay, so one thing is getting the cafes themselves. Another one is finding out which brands they've got. And I haven't got my notes, so I can't remember if I meant to say at this point that one of our unique selling points is the amount of data or the type of data that we've got in Find My Tea. Even Google doesn't have this data. It is the list of cafes that are in the UK, plus things like the brands that they serve and the types of tea, the other bits and pieces of things that they provide in the cafe, what have you. So that's the unique selling point of Find My Tea. So earlier in the year, I partnered with somebody because I'm great at writing software. At least I think I'm great at writing software. Some of you who've worked with me may disagree, especially Alex by the sound of it. But what I'm really crap at is the business side of things and promoting things and that sort of thing. When John and I started SyncNorwich a long, long time ago, it was really easy because it was kind of early days of Twitter. And you could just keep tweeting people until events sold out. And then everybody else started doing that, and it's not as easy anymore. So I've given up trying to do that sort of thing, and I'm relying on somebody else for promotion. The way we're going to try and make money from Find My Tea is by selling it to the cafes so that they can pay to have upgraded listings in the app and on the website. So things like being able to add more than one photograph, I forgot what the other one is because I haven't got my notes.
You're building it.
Yeah, I know.
It's one of two.
Yeah. So there are other things cafes can pay for that are really, really useful. Oh yeah, that was it. The social media promotion. So we've automated a load of social media stuff, so we can post to all the different platforms, various bits and pieces, and we'll do that if they pay for it. We've also got adverts in the app, which none of you can see because it won't download. But that's not really making any. Oh, nice one, John. And we're starting to get cafes on board. So we've only been doing it for 3 or 4 weeks. No one's paid yet, but they've claimed their listing, and we've got about 50 of them so far. This is my user map from, or my graph of users or searches from Saturday morning when I was doing my slides. It's not great, is it? I mean, there are a few days where it's really, really good, but do you know what those days are?
When you're testing.
When I'm testing. So what I really need is users. So we're kind of working on that, talking to Holly and the people she's employing who are working on Find My Tea, see how we can generate more users. But it's very much a case of trying to get the cafes on board first, and then the users. So that's it, really. And I would normally love to answer some questions now, but that's at the end, isn't it? So what I will just say is that I'm doing an hour and a 90-minute talk on the technology of Find My Tea, so all the different processes and the different technologies that I've used and thrown away and created other ones and thrown them away over the last year or two. And I'll be doing that for Suffolk developers at the ACCU conference if they accept me, and at Nordev in June. I couldn't find the dates for Nordev online, Alex.
I think it's either the 16th and 17th or the 17th and 18th.
Of June?
Yeah,
I wasn't even
whichever's
sure it was
Thursday
June, I
or
was
Friday.
guessing.
Yeah, June's good.
Okay, cool.
I'm
So,
pretty sure it's 16th and 17th.
when you're asking me questions later, try and ignore the fact that I said coffee instead of tea earlier. And that I'm just doing this for fun.
Let's just fire up the next. Who's next? It's Greenr, isn't it? Thomas. I mean, that's also a really good example to the students here. You know, you started Find My Tea just to learn new tech, and you'd never done mobile before, front end. You're all a back end guy, so you know it's an example of a project that you could, you know, just find any idea. You like tea, build an app. So simple, you know. And if you went to a prospective employer and you built your app, it's in the app store, you'll get the job.
I wish building an app was so simple, but thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Thomas, the founder of Greenr. We're going to have a little activity first, just to loosen everyone up. Can you all stand up if you've ever bought an item on Amazon or Etsy? Thank you. No, never heard of those companies, guys? No? No, cool. No worries. Lovely stuff. Brilliant. So I'm talking to the right group of people then. And can you stay standing up if you have never felt a little bit of guilt from buying on Amazon, particularly? That's okay, yeah. You guys, I'm just going to assume you're evil. No, I'm joking. Okay, interesting. Okay, but the majority of you sat down, so I think I'm talking to a good group of people here, and you guys will forget about it. I'm just kidding. Good stuff. So, as I said, I'm here representing Greenr, my company. We are in the midst of a climate crisis. I don't need to tell you all about that. We're all aware of it. But people want to shop better, but they do not know how to do it. But I'm going to take you back. So in 2019, I set up my first company, Festovers. We were the first company to deal with this crap, officially, to be paid contracted, to collect leftover festival tents by festivals. It's a mess. I worked for Greenpeace for 4 years. I went there representing Greenpeace, fundraising, speaking. One thing that wasn't dealt with was that mess. So we got together a team. We reached out to one of the largest medium festivals, Truck Festival in Oxfordshire, got a contract, and we collected over 85% of their leftover tents, all to be upcycled or to repurposed. Then the pandemic came, so there were no festivals. So it was really good, but one thing we did realize is we were dealing with the symptom of a wider issue, which is the fact that people are buying crap products and then leaving them and don't know what to do with them. Consumers want to buy better products. So a third of consumers in a number of studies, it ranges from about 30 to 38% in the results, said that they do want to buy better products, but over 50% of them didn't know where to do that or where to find them. So what the solution is having a platform which connects consumers with beautiful, greener products. A bold, straight-talking competitor and a powerful brand with a simple message: shop greener. Shop Greenr is a multi-vendor marketplace, sustainable products all in one place. These products are vetted, they come with a better impact, and they have a lower price point than your normal ethical consumer marketplaces because we undercut them on commission. But also, what's more than this, more than the marketplace, is the brand. We're breaking out of that eco-warrior echo chamber, which we all know about. I probably fit into that echo chamber. But the market is changing, the industry is changing, and people not in that chamber want to buy better too. Works very simply at the beginning. Orders are made on the site, goes to the supplier distributes that, gets to the consumer, and hopefully, based on our marketing strategy, the consumers come back and make more orders, and it continues. However, this is really just the beginning for Greenr, and we want to develop and introduce more features which deal with the last mile, a very polluting aspect of the consumer market. This is one of our competitors. As you can see, it's nice, isn't it? It's nice. It's a little fluffy. It's all script writing. We're changing that. It's bold, it's brave, it talks to the consumer, it talks to people on a wide level in a modern, accessible way, and allows people who aren't within that region to come to a brand which doesn't talk down to them, doesn't condescend them, and brings them into a movement which they're going to be a part of anyway. This is a huge market. I can throw a lot of big figures as are on the screen, but what's more important is the fact that this market is growing. So in the same period that household spending only grew by 2%, ethical consumerism grew by 400%. At the same time as that, consumers want to shop better. You've got over 30% stopping buying products because of environmental and social reasons, and a third of shoppers obviously going into the vegan market and also the sustainable clothing market. But don't take my word on it. The smart money's on green business nowadays. Laws are changing. We've just had COP26. There are new regulations coming in, greenwashing. There are new regulations coming in on what environmental claims your company can do, ESGs. All of these things are coming in, and it is going to change. Public figures are speaking out. It's not just Greta Thunberg. It's not just Greenpeace or Extinction Rebellion. They've been there for a while saying these things. The Queen is talking about this. Boris Johnson, the head of Conservative Party, are talking about this now. This is becoming a popular subject. And of course, for the investors in the room, investment is growing as well. We've seen a boom in impact investment. And this is because investors know that this is where the industry is going, but also they know that there's money in it. Now, it wouldn't be a lie to say that the e-commerce industry is vast and saturated. But as you can see from this, we've got a number of competitors, both eco and not. Amazon and Etsy are on there. They've got a huge range of products, but aren't known for their sustainability. We want to place ourselves here, an accessible brand, something that speaks to both sides of that market, and a range of products not to the scale of Amazon, because there aren't ethical consumer products which reach every sector that you find on Amazon, but you can find a lot of them, and that's why we're here. But we're also filling a gap. As you can see, the independent makers is dominated by Etsy. It's probably the largest independent online store that you can find. Depop, secondhand clothing, it's grown exponentially since its launch and has just been bought by Etsy for over $1 billion. And of course, Amazon for new products. Anything you want, quickly, next day, buy it on Amazon. We all know that. But what's missing is new sustainable products, vetted products. You know that when you buy that product, it's having less of an impact on the planet, but also you know that you are going to have a more durable product, a better product, and something which is going to last you and you're going to love for longer, from a brand that cares as well. Now, this is a big project, and we've got a lot of vision for other things coming down the line. And what we want to offer to begin with is, of course, what you'd expect: the vetting, the accountability, the range of products, a semi-native mobile app. Almost 3/4 of purchases are done on a mobile at the end of this year. That is a huge market, which our competitors, away from Amazon and Etsy, our sustainable competitors, are not hitting. And that's why we want to reach into that market. Now, we already have spoken about the strong brand, but we want to bring in other aspects, democratize the vetting of brands, bring the consumers on that journey. They know there's a threshold, but what if they want to know more? What if they're shopping so much that they could rack up tokens and then use those to speak to brands in a way which gets that brand to be better, but also to produce more products at scale? This is something that we all want to look into. Now, anyone can build a marketplace, right? But we are the ones who are going to do this with Greenr. I personally have founded a company before. I've worked for over 4 years with Greenpeace. I've volunteered with Surfers Against Sewage. I'm also studying a part-time master's in climate change and international development at UEA, working alongside some of the leading climate scientists in the world at the Tyndall Centre. My co-founder, Hugo, who unfortunately is self-isolating, we thought we'd all got past that. Well done for wearing a mask, mister. My co-founder, Hugo, has worked in government comms for 4 years since graduating UEA. He's worked on multi-million-pound EU-funded environmental projects. He is the lead on an award-winning COVID campaign, and he's worked in publishing COVID campaign. Here, have some COVID, guys. And he worked in publishing, branding, and packaging comms. And we're really excited to have brought on a third member to that team, Emma, who has been coming on as a tech. Some of you will know her. Paul, I know that you are working alongside Emma at the moment. She worked in ed tech before at a startup called Rise. She has a Silicon Valley background of full web stack development, and she specializes in Flutter and Node.js. And she's really passionate about Greenr, and that's what matters to us, is the team that we're working with care. But it's not just us. It's a hugely experienced people behind us, both official and non-official. Some of these people are coming on board as NEDs or advisors. Some of them are coming on just as friendly faces who like what we're doing. And these range from multinational brands such as Mars, Airbus, all the way down to local development agencies like Quickfire Digital. But it doesn't matter what the big names are. What matters is that they care about Greenr, they love what we're doing, they can see a market for it, and they fill a specific part of expertise which we might not have. We've also been approached, 1 minute. We've also been approached by 3 wonderful people who want to come and do some work for us, and we're also supported by UEA Enterprise. Traction is super important, but I'll rush through this. We have over 2,000 followers. This is a bit outdated. Pre-product, so it's really hard to bring people in. We've got nearly 100 companies signed up, including Wild Cosmetics, which is a huge startup, all the way down to independent makers. We have £10,000 of grants and more from UEA. We're raising at the moment, so anyone who's an investor, please talk to me afterwards. We've raised over £30,000 at the moment, and we're aiming to cap that at 100,000 this raise. We've worked with Quickfire. We've started developing an app. Revenue streams are obvious. Financial projections are mad because we're pre-revenue, so what do you want me to say? No, I'm just kidding. We have financial projections for a number of different scenarios. This one just looks at offering that third-party platform, but we are moving forward to other options too, and I'm finishing now. Don't worry, I can see you discussing over there. We're going to reach out to our consumers in 2 ways: target the loyal, eco-conscious market, and then go into that wider market. And as our revenues grow, we can branch out more and bring more of those consumers in. And we've got a roadmap. build the platform, accelerate and raise again, and then launch, raise, scale. We are going to disrupt this industry. Someone is going to do it. Greenr is going to be the platform to do that now, and I'm going to get to the end. The message is simple. Think greener, shop greener, be greener. Thank you very much. I massively run out of time.
Awesome, good work. That was a strong pitch. Loved it. So we got David, have we? Yes, Dave. I love Dave. There we go. Slideshow, isn't it? Yep. Cool.
Cool. Wicked. I'm going to wait for him to start his timer. Yeah, so for those that don't know me already, my name's David Kingfisher, and as of about 3 weeks ago, I am the CEO and co-founder of Scoop. Woo. So Scoop actually came out of a little event called Sync the City that happened in the summer this year. This year, Sync the City was a little bit different in the fact that it was centered around the circular economy and upcycling. So just to highlight up there, Scoop was actually the winner. Now, I've done quite a few Sync the Cities in the past. Usually, well, I've done all of them, yeah. I've won a couple too. Usually after about 2 weeks, you start kind of coming down from that buzz, and actually you think, well, this could work, maybe it couldn't, but we were kind of, a lot of the team were in tonight, still kind of buzzing and thinking this could actually work after a month or so, I think. So we decided to actually go for it. So this is our team up there. Now, a lot of us were pretty new to upcycling, circular economy, but we did notice a gap that we thought we maybe could utilize. That gap was around the people that were wanting to upcycle or to recycle or better use materials, and actually the people producing those materials, so the businesses that were producing waste materials that could be used in a better way. We wanted to try and solve that using technology, and that's where Scoop was born. So I'm going to put some scary facts up there, which, yeah, we all know it, particularly with COP26 ending just end of last week, beginning of last week. Some key things up there from the UK, 46 million tons of CO2 coming from landfill. Now, quite significant. It's about 10% of the overall CO2 impact that the UK is currently kind of producing. So it's something that needs to be sorted out. Now, there are a few different technical solutions within that area, specifically kind of around haulage, logistics, very geared towards the construction industry, that bigger, wider industry that some of the smaller businesses can't actually capitalize on, they can't afford. So you're talking kind of million tons of recycling being sent to landfill and tracking that data, but actually tracking it within particularly hospitality and retail is actually a little bit more difficult, but they're still having a significant impact on that kind of landfill. So 2 million tons, about 2% of all landfill CO2 emissions. So it's still something that needs to be done about that. So that's where Scoop comes in. So Scoop itself is a waste management platform, essentially. So we are gathering the details of all of the waste that some of those smaller businesses, particularly within the retail, hospitality business on the high street, gathering where that, what they're producing, what materials could be reused, what materials could be better utilized or better disposed of, and using those insights to allow them to make better and more sustainable decisions on how to utilize that. Now, the most important fact up there, because I think that's how you actually change people's hearts and minds, really, particularly if you're in a small business on the high street, already struggling after COVID, to save money, because actually if you stop dealing with your waste, you can actually save money. It costs a lot to put stuff in landfill if you're a small business. So just very briefly about the tech. Now, I'm not sure if people have heard of Things platform. So Neil Garner, my co-founder, runs that. So this is around really utilizing NFC and QR technology to actually be able to physically track the bins and the waste that's in those at a kind of small granular level. So we can run campaigns on different types of waste, different types of bins, and give insights to those businesses on how to better deal with that. Won't go into too much detail on the tech there, but it's going to be designed to be as easy to use and produce the data that can allow data audits and insights as to how better deal with that if you're a small business, which just isn't available unless you're doing a lot of research yourself. So we want to help to facilitate part of this partner ecosystem. So I think we can probably talk at some point later. So to us, this kind of ecosystem, there's a gap in the middle there that's allowing kind of that communication. We already had a couple of conversations where actually, a producer or a local authority going to processors and collectors without that data is actually quite a difficult conversation for them to have. So what we can help to do for each of these entities within this is to provide some value and allow them to kind of us to facilitate that relationship within this ecosystem. So for producers, they can see what they're producing, they can see what they'll be doing better. They also have access to the partner collectors and the processors that we will have on board as well as Scoop. We're already in conversations with a few of those different kind of entities, as well as the local authorities. So if they're running an initiative to try and reduce waste or to try and increase upcycling, for example, which I know BID are doing at the moment in Norwich, they can actually see the impact of those initiatives, or maybe where to look next to make the biggest difference. Each of the businesses that are involved in Sync, whether they be a producer of waste, like a small business, or even a collector, can actually publicize their own automated reports. So this is just gathered from kind of self-collected data from those businesses themselves to actually keep track of what they're doing better. And actually we think, particularly on the high street, which is quite competitive, this might be quite a good PR tool for those smaller businesses to stand out. And also eventually kind of get that traceability and that transparency of the waste. So yes, I'm doing better. Yes, it's not ending up in landfill. It's not being sent abroad to be processed. Of course, as I said, financial incentive is really important as well. So we've done a couple of kind of use cases on this one particular is a smaller kind of inner city cafe. As you can see, the big number in the middle there, estimated that we could actually save them quite a lot of money just by dealing with their waste in a better way and actually getting it collected in better ways. This is based on food waste actually, so specifically coffee grounds, just being 15% of that general waste being reduced. That's 46 bins a year. That's £10 a pop if you want a bin collected, plus you have to rent it. So that starts to add up fairly quickly, and actually that helps that business to have that competitive edge as well. So I'm not going to read through all of those, but these are some of the kind of things that we're going to be doing to kind of identify our USP. We're quite a technically based team, so obviously we are looking for environmental expertise and things like that as well, but actually some of these things are going to make it as easy as possible to use this app. So for example, automating some of the regulatory compliance around collecting waste, it's called a waste transfer note. If we can automate that, it means that actually someone can just come pick up your rubbish and not have to worry about the paperwork which those bigger collection companies are doing. We're also looking at kind of branding off the back of that. So Trustpilot, you can have a sticker in your window and say, you know what, we're a 5-star waste processor, producer. We don't waste whatever we can. You get the idea. The important one, revenue. So there are 3 kind of key things that we're looking at getting our revenue from. So eventually over time, once we've got these businesses and they can see the actual value they're getting from that, and as I said, that's automated reporting, it's auditing, it's doing the legal requirements. There will be a subscription service for those types of companies. We're already in conversations with a few of the kind of badges that are up there. Some of them are targeted. There's also kind of the one-off service. So if you're a town or a city looking to improve, we can do an audit and use this data to actually say, do you know what? This is what your city should be doing to improve, as well as eventually having that kind of partner network. So being able to say, we're a collector, we're going to start collecting coffee grounds specifically, tell us who's got them. So, perfect. It's actually fun. So, this is our aim, so pretty ambitious. The sort of revenues we're looking there with subscriptions, so maybe £25 a month for a smaller business, 100 for a medium size. Actually, if we met those targets, we would be around £1 million revenue a month, plus the other streams of revenues such as those audits and the marketing. We're already doing quite a lot, so we've actually got our second hackathon planned this weekend. In honor of Sync the City, we're going to try and get that MVP a lot further. And in the early part of next year, this is our kind of first quarter plan. So we've already in talks with a couple of companies that are looking to do pilots with us. A couple of areas and partners involved in those areas. Here's our excellent team. You can go to our website, by the way, which will be up on the last slide, to find more about that. And this is kind of what we need. So, yeah, investments, businesses that are interested, conversations with people, that learning what people are actually wanting to get out of this app and this service, so we can help to build that ecosystem for everybody in it. Thank you.
Right, can you hear me? I am so nervous, I think I could be sick. So if anyone's on the front row, just be warned. I feel very nervous, mainly because I'm not part of your industry. And I'd like to say, first of all, and thank you to Selena and the audience, I just don't code, okay? So all of that will go over my head. But the other reason is that I often think back that if I was my grandmother right here this evening, or in fact, if it was your grandmother. Has anyone still got a grandmother alive here? Okay, maybe it's your great-grandmother then, but if she was on this stage here tonight, it's quite possible that after this event, I'd be arrested, she would be arrested, or possibly taken to a mental asylum, because some of the views that I might be sharing are slightly radical. I don't want you to worry about that too much, but I would also, thirdly, like you just to take a moment and think, at some point during this presentation, you may well think that it doesn't apply to you. And when you have that moment and you slightly switch off, I'd like you just to take a note on how long that is into the pitch, okay? So let's start. I will start. I promise I'll start. Okay, so you've seen this one before, right? This is from a study by David Dunning and Justin Kruger, which talks about the cognitive bias that we have, which we all have biases. Every single one of us in this room, we have several biases, prejudice against a particular thing or person or group of things. And this one is just impossible. I mean, I know it's America, and I will forgive them for that. But how on earth can you possibly be better than the average 93% of you? That shows us that we have this ability to be highly overconfident on our own performance in relation to our peers. And I'd like to say tonight that I'm not going to put myself above average for the other pitches. I think they were incredible, so thank you for that. But the reason I'm telling you this is because I think it's important, and we'll come back to it, that we all have a bias, several of them, and we will come back to that. So we have here 3 global media headlines from the last 6 weeks alone. We have the US Supreme Court recognizing that male judges are constantly interrupting female judges, and they need to do something about it. We have a really senior executive at Amazon Web Services who is currently suing them for a culture which is just too toxic at the top. And the final one is actually the UK Gender Gap Report, which was from only last month. And it's been slated for having no teeth. I mean, that's a grandmother, isn't it, perhaps? And the fact that, in particular, all it's doing is monitoring, and it's not doing anything about action. So I don't think any of that will be particularly new to you. But what we do have, if I can just put that up for you to look at, is we have two issues being compounded. And that is that we have large swathes of businesses and industries that are homogeneic, which means the opposite of diverse, basically. And if we compound that with our inability to accurately self-report, we are in a position where we're not really taking on board what's happening in the room. So we have a huge social and economic problem. And that is that 50% of our global workforce are really being underutilized because gender parity is not going to be reached for another century. There is good news, however. I don't want to be all doom and gloom. We have many companies, and I'm sure there are some here this evening, who are doing fantastic things around diversity in the workplace. You have recruitment drives, you have new policies, you have talent programs. You are fully engaged in making your company more diverse as much as you can in rural Norfolk. But, and this is where I'm going to give a caution. I have got fancy music if I did this at home. And that's a warning. And I just want you to think for a moment, because all of us in this room, I don't know if I'm holding this right, all of us in this room are subject to this. And this is the fact that when women are encouraged to adopt more agentic behaviors, so that means when we're encouraged to be more confident and self-assured and to enter the room and lean in, when we do all of those behaviors and are encouraged to do so, in particular talent programs, we all, and that's men, women, and those that identify as neither, none of us really like it. It's actually known as the status incongruity hypothesis. And we all share this. This is nothing that we don't share. And that's mainly because we've had 2,000 years of patriarchy. I mean, how on earth can we really overcome that? But it's important to remember that it's something that we all share. So we need to think, how can we do something different that's going to mean that we all like it, so that we all do it, to have a more inclusive workplace. So I'm going to take it from the macro down to the micro and ask you to think for just a moment of a former colleague or a colleague right now that just talks too much in meetings. Or maybe just doesn't really contribute at all. And I think you can all think of someone. And so this is where Yakbit, finally I get to the product. Yakbit is going to be your solution. So what is it? It's, and this is where, forgive me if I haven't got the tech language that's useful for you. But it's a subscription-based app that basically allows companies to measure inclusion in a quantitative fashion. So the problem that we have, well, it's not a problem. We have great qualitative data going on right now in companies. We have 360s, we have 180s, we have employee engagement surveys, we have enormous amount of rich qualitative data. And I'm a coach, by the way, so, this is really useful as a reflection process. But we're missing half the room because it's really easy, A, to recognize that we can't self-report accurately, and secondly, that we have the ability to dismiss it if it doesn't suit what we want to hear. So this will allow individuals, small teams, the employer itself, to actually monitor, and then change the negotiation habits of the people in their company. It will be real-time inclusion data because the rest of it is all lagging and historical. And with that, companies can put that against the demographics of the Equalities Act and therefore start gaining some really useful data to move forward on their inclusion agenda. How much time have I got left? Is someone timing me? Okay, so what 2 minutes? What might it look like? It's like any old app, isn't it, really? You plug it in and you download it and you put in the bits that you want to. And I think what's amazing is how much information young people are willing to share. And you're then able to decide when you're going to use it, or the company decides when you're using it in the room. And over a period of time, you can find out how much you are speaking in that meeting, how much you are contributing. You may decide that actually, as in your role, you should be contributing more. Are more men speaking than women? What's the pace? What's the tone? Variety of data that can then be used to change habits. As an employer, they will obviously have some kind of great dashboard oversight where they can really show regression, because there's bound to be regression to begin with, and progression on some of the data that they want to collect in relation to the talking and speaking habits of their employees in the workplace in meetings. I think we are moving swiftly on. So why, is it going to work? I'm so early stage. I can't believe I'm on the stage. There is a huge booming coaching market. We have voice recognition going so high. I don't know where it's going to end up. We have tech going into all sorts of, you know where this is all going in the HR sector. And we have £900 million spent in the UK alone on development in the workplace. So I think there's real potential there. The executive learning in the workplace globally, unbelievably, is still, going really strong. Europe is perhaps the one that's got the least anticipated increase. But interestingly, across the globe, there is a real... Oh, is that my timing? So why now? Why now? Oh, my God. Now is it. Now is the time, because companies want to address EDI, don't they? Because we know, ultimately, that it's going to improve profit and shareholder value. I mean, that's a given. So they want to do that. The current data is qualitative, great, but it's perception, and it's lagging with no universal standard. So what we really need, and what Yakbit will provide, is better real-time and quantitative data required to instigate meaningful change in the workplace. And I think that's probably where I finish. And that's me, should you want to know more. But I'd love to talk to anyone about anything. Thanks very much.
Why me?
So for Mary Jo, I think it's a fantastic idea. What's going to stop it negatively impacting more introverted colleagues in team meetings who might not necessarily always speak up but are more reflective? Are they potentially punished for not taking part in the traditional sense and speaking up?
Do you want me to repeat that? What did you say? So how might it negatively impact those that may be shy in a work meeting space? Yeah. I mean, I think what we've got to recognise is that the ultimate goal is not to necessarily make you speak more, but actually it's to recognise what is your role within the company, and are you doing that to the best effect. So actually it's quite likely that the person who's speaking a lot is more than likely needing to speak less. So this is what the Yakbit aims to do. I mean, I think what's really interesting, and it's because I'm within education, is that it's really well researched that in the classroom, a teacher should, if they ask a question, they should give them 9 seconds response time before anyone interrupts. Thousands of teachers know this. It's really well researched. But actually, in reality, teachers give less than a second. And so it's about habits that we have. They might be habits that are okay, but I think it's not necessarily that we're aiming to move them from one to another. Sorry, that's a rambling answer.
There is a mic in the ceiling apparently, so we don't need to repeat. Who came up with the idea, Mary Jo? It's a really good idea.
Thank you. I came up with the idea mainly because from the I'm a teacher, so it's really come from something that I'd really like to do in schools, and that was my original idea. But it's actually impossible to do at the moment within a classroom because there's just too many voices and there's too many complexities involved in what is actual learning taking place. So it's using that because I have 3 boys, they're 14, 13 and 8. And if I was to ask, all of them separately, who talks the most in their class and who doesn't say anything, they could all say the same names from aged 4 or 5. So these are habits that we get into really early on. And unless we have data that can kind of be a mirror to reflect back what's happening in the room, then we can't really change it and we just get used to that.
With respect to your app, so when it comes to development team, specifically team considering only of developers, so most of the cases there are few developers who might be in the team who might not be that presentative in the meeting, so they mostly will be interested in listening to their team leaders what they are saying. So in that scenario, how your app will be fitting into that situation, because many of the developers may not be that talkative or they not be presentative enough, but they might be a good programmer on the back end, but they'll listen. But in that situation, how the app will be working?
That's such a good question. I think it's about role again. There are times, aren't there, when actually you might have a 3-hour meeting and you expect the person that's leading the meeting to speak for 2.5 hours, and that's okay. That you're only being asked to contribute within a small designated space in that meeting. So I think it's about setting the parameters on how it's used in the best way to actually make a more effective team rather than exposing the team.
How long until we can use it?
That's such a good question. It is, isn't it? You know the answer to that, don't you, rather than me? I don't know. I get the impression that that you all move really fast, don't you? Aren't you fast movers? So I don't know how long. It's any day, any day.
Great pitch, thank you. I'm kind of a little bit worried about the work that's right at the centre of your model is the work that the person in an SME environment has to do. Because if it sort of breaks down, if they don't want to play, or if they get it wrong and are putting the wrong sort of waste in the wrong sort of bin, how do you sort of tackle that problem?
Yeah, it's a really good question actually, and I was speaking to someone earlier about that kind of data integrity, I guess, is part of what you're saying there. So with regards to kind of encouraging it and allowing kind of people to make the right kind of inputs to that data, I mean, we're going to be working kind of in a way to make it as easy as possible. So each of those flows, each individual kind of bin has its own kind of flow attached to it for that type of waste. So that guiding and that kind of constant testing, making sure that we are getting that data integrity is one part we're doing that. The classic gamification of that as well. So if you've got several employees that gamification. If you've got several employees that are kind of, maybe having incentives to have that good data in there is one thing we're doing. So what's the second part of that question? Was around. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so we're also going to be part of that ecosystem. So if you've got kind of a particular waste producer that is lying or producing bad waste or mixing stuff in bad, there's a feedback loop there that's part of it. It's in the business's own interest to log it correctly because it's going to help to them to be more sustainable and give them that kind of good waste producer rating as well.
You talked a lot about vetting your product. How do you perceive operationalizing that in an efficient way?
Yeah, so there's sort of two stages that I sort of bring up here. The first is, at the moment, we've prospected brands that we want on board on the platform. So we've done our research essentially, and then we speak to them and get them to provide evidence on what we think. But when we're live and brands apply to sell for us, we have designed, I say designed, it is very easily put together, a points system table where essentially as brands go through that, they have to upload evidence or not upload evidence or prove it in some other way, and they'll get a number of points based on that. They have to hit a minimum threshold for both brand and for product that they're uploading, because it would be all very well and good having a really great sustainable brand, but the product's made it using slave labor. We don't want that. The brand's made that. So it has to be equitable across from brand to product, but then later down the line as well, we are looking at ways in which we can sort of automate that process, but you're going to risk sort of looking at evidence and having mistakes made. So there will be a certain amount of labor that goes into it, reviewing that evidence, reviewing that upload, but assuming that they have uploaded correctly, it shouldn't be a particularly labor intensive job to do.
Yourself?
Yeah.
I don't have a seat, I have a soul. So I was shopping on Amazon earlier. They've started sticking little green labels to say stuff's source. Kind of ties in with that question. Will your stuff be transparent for the threshold and what score people get, or will it be all equal in a sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question. So firstly, it's great that Amazon have started doing it because it proves everything that I've just said to everyone in this room. They will never be able to do it properly because they're not going to stop the other billions of products from being sold on their platform, so they just won't do it, which is why there's space for something like this. In answer to that, yes, there's a number, so depending on what the product is and which categories it fits into, you can read more into that. A certain part of the Greenr ecosystem is to provide some sort of accessible education to that. Now that still leads you to buy a product. You know, we're a profitable for-profit company, but it does it in a way which allows you to read what that means. If they're certified B Corp, for example, and I don't know, I mean, put your hands up, how many of you know what B Corp means? 3, 4, 5 people out of a room of what, 40? So, you know, we will let those people know what that means, what they're buying, but also see the impact that that has. So, for example, once they've bought a product, you've saved X amount of plastic or whatever from going in the system, you've bought from a company which is certified in this way or this manner, and that means this. An impact-based viewing system for those consumers and brands, of course. Does that answer the question? Yeah, cool. Yeah. Yeah.
What phase do you see that coming in, and if it's not to start with, why?
Yeah, so not to start with is time and capital. So if you want to put the capital behind it to build it for us, then go for it. But absolutely, yeah. I think for us, we need to look at doing. There's two sides to this. One thing really well and do it really well and show that we're the dominant, without sounding evil, party in that space, and that is being a multi-vendor marketplace which gives everyone in this room access to hundreds of brands making better products, right? The second aspects of that are exactly what you said. Now, if we can bring that in smoothly to begin with, then it's a really good way for us to reach out into a developing market which is growing exponentially at the moment. I mean, we've all seen the consistent bombardment of Web3 and NFT and all of these things that are coming onto our news feeds at the moment, and that really interests us, but it's not what the soul of the product is to begin with. So if we can bring that in a way which incorporates that and builds with the brand as we scale, then absolutely. But if it's something that we feel, let's get that product out there in exactly what it says it does, we can scale, bridge that market that we've said we're going to bridge to, and then raise on a higher valuation and incorporate a whole bunch of other stuff to back it up and make it actually a disruptor, then that's a good way for us to do it as well. It's just about timing and just making sure we've got the capital and the people behind us to do it, essentially. And making sure we know what we talk about, because Web3 is full of crap as well. So
Now's a question to two different people.
Yeah.
Okay. So Paul, first of all, the question is, when does it get serious for you? Or what has to happen for it to get serious?
Oh, Phil. think when somebody offers me enough money to do it full time, it'll get serious. Any offers? No? Oh, thanks.
Question to the audience on behalf of Thomas's pitch, which is, you had a little slide up that showed people that are saying things, influencing. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't do anything for me, unfortunately. Queen, Dave Attenborough, I can't remember the fourth one.
Boris, David
Boris,
Attenborough.
but he certainly doesn't do anything for me. But who would you need out there to be an influencer to make you do anything different to what you do now?
John Fagan.
There's an interesting book called Change, which is actually about this kind of social spread of things. I don't know if anyone's read that, which is actually doing stuff in a local area like this. Is people are more likely to change their behaviour if 80% of the people you know actually tell you the same thing. But if you're a big influencer and actually 1% of the people you know caught a new idea, you're going to go, that's rubbish.
Yeah.
So it's almost kind of like you need somebody that's actually going to be able to spread it and you can trust. To kind of, which is why kind of building things local sort of works, because you then all the people around you tell you that, even if the people all around the world don't have it.
So it's your peers are more important than those other
friends.
people.
Your friends.
The whole point of social
tokenomics.
DiCaprio can't put peer pressure on you.
No.
Isn't the whole point of Web3 and social tokenomics, though, that actually you're invested in the platform yourself, therefore the people around you perpetuate the fact that you're part of that community?
If I could just say one thing to all of that. One of the things that we didn't really get to speak about on the slides is the marketing strategy, the marketing plan, the route to market. I sort of mentioned that we have two very loose groups, but actually in our marketing plan we break those down a lot more. They all, through a whole bunch of research that my amazing CMO and co-founder Hugo has done, have different things which influence them. From Gen Z all the way up to baby boomers, yummy mummies, all the way down to, you know, people who don't give a crap and will just continue to buy. James, I'm looking at you since you didn't sit down. But no, my point is that everyone's influenced by different things, and you're absolutely right. Peers is a big part of that for a number of those groups. But there are other things that influence them as well, and that can go down to the eco warrior is going to listen to a eco-conscious influencer more than they're going to listen to Kanye West, for example. But you know, someone in a state school like where I came from and who listens to Kanye West all the time and is really interested in what products he's wearing. I want to buy those Yeezys because he's just released them or whatever. They're interested in what that person has to say. If that person's walking around with a Greenr t-shirt or talking about the fact he just bought those on Greenr, it's going to have a massive influence on a whole market which isn't even being touched by Greenr.
Cool. Thank you. Round of applause. Just a Twitter poll. This is the result of it. Who would you invest £1 million in? We, SyncNorwich, have just deposited £1 million in all of your accounts, but you have to spend it instantly. So we're going to do a quick vote, putting your hands up. You're not on the best pitch tonight. And could you count? No, we'll keep it. Just who's the winner? Who's the winner? So hands up if Find My Team will get your £1 million.